So this is where it gets really exciting. So The Guardian, for example, is a fantastic newspaper. If you read it, I know we've all got different takes on what we read, but just to tell you, The Guardian reach 500,000 unique users a day. That's massive. So if you can look at digital as well as traditional PR, you're going to get your article published, your blog published. You will be around forever and a day, and it helps you with the SEO. So just consider both today when we're talking about PR for you. So how hard can it really be? It's actually really easy when you know how. And I'm going to share with you the biggest thing today that you want to try and get your head around. And I can guarantee you're probably already there by working with Elliot, because it's about that emotional connection. So the number one mistake people make when securing publicity or trying to secure publicity is they're not really making the emotional connection. I'll go into that a little bit more in a while. So if we haven't met before, I know some of you we have met before, and I'm working with some of you, which is wonderful. So forgive this little bit here. We haven't met before, just to give you my background. My name is Rachael Taplin. I'm known as the Media Matchmaker. My company's Media Matchmaker and Blue Boom Media. But I haven't always done this. I've been speaking and helping business owners get publicity since 2012 now. And it's as a result of the fact that I started speaking, sharing my story on how I secured hundreds of radio interviews, got onto the TV channels, been featured in most of the national glossy women's magazines and national newspapers. And it was all because it clicked with me from a PR point of view. So I've always worked in the media. I worked in radio for 5 years selling advertising. So like Elliot, SMEs, us guys, is where my heart lies, because every single penny counts, doesn't it? You know, we work really hard on our business, and we need the rewards, and we want to get to bigger communities, and we need a lucky break. So I worked in radio for 5 years, helping SMEs, getting them advertising. I then set up my own ad agency. So I looked after all the marketing. So I've done above the line and below the line marketing. And then I set up a magazine that you'll see here called Mums in Control. And this is where I learned to do PR. So this was a magazine I franchised around the country. I had at our peak about 60 franchisees, and we were printing about 250,000 copies per print run. So it was really successful, and I got to interview all these wonderful celebrities. And it got to the point, if you may remember, if you were in business in 2007, 2008, if you're old like me, we used to make money back then. We didn't have a recession, budgets were flying high. We used to make money, and I wanted to hire and do PR for my business, but didn't know how to go about it. So I did what most people would consider to do. I hired a PR agency. Now, I'm not here today to take anything away from PR agencies. They do a great job. If you can afford one, absolutely work with one, because they do have great connections, and sometimes they niche down, but you don't need a PR agency to make this work. So when my business was flying high, I paid a PR agency £1,500 a month, and they put some press releases out for me, and they did secure me some coverage. They got me on Good Morning Britain with the lovely Lorraine Kelly, as you can see there in the top left-hand corner, which way it is, and featured in the Daily Mail about flexible franchising. And it was at this point I got a real taste for PR. And if you remember, in business in about 2009, we had the credit crunch, a bit similar to where we're at now. Literally, my business dried up overnight, because the first thing that got cut was advertising revenue. People were panicking. I couldn't recruit new franchisees because there wasn't any money around, and I had to hold on to my franchisees because they wanted to leave. So it was a really challenging time. So I could have a taste of the PR. I could see that it was going to work for me, but I could no longer afford the PR agency. So I went along to an event when we used to meet people in person, and saw a speaker down in London. It was when Les Brown was speaking, I think Anthony Robbins was speaking, and there was a guy coming over from America, and he's not doing it so much anymore, and he taught me how to do my own PR, and I bought into his system, £1,500. I followed the system, and from one press release, I generated over £32,000 worth of cash to my business. And from one press release, that same press release, I was featured on over 70 radio stations, 15 of which were live interviews. So that's why I'm talking to you today about how you can do PR, and I'm going to share with you exactly how I did that. So hopefully you're still with me. I'm cramming as much in as I possibly can with you along the way. We've got plenty of time to dive into this. I want you to understand, or try and understand, how the media has changed. I interview lots of journalists now. I had the pleasure of interviewing a freelance journalist that's worked for the Daily Mail for over 15, 20 years. And I interviewed the editor-in-chief, you can hear him on Brummie, from Birmingham. And he said to me, now, the way we report the news has changed. We react to the news. We actually look and see what's trending on Twitter. Guess what? You guys can do exactly the same. If you want to connect to the media, you can start by seeing what's trending, what's news and topical, what can you talk about, what do you have an opinion on? And that's when you need to jump on it and connect to the journalists. So the journalists really are no longer leading the news, they're reacting to the news, which is amazing, and it creates a great opportunity for you guys. So what you need to consider to do is to think about, where do you want to be featured? So think about who your avatar is, and I'm sure Elliot's gone through this with you from a marketing point of view before. As a speaker, who is your ideal customer? Are you business to business? Are you business to consumer? What do you think your customers read, or what do you think they watch? Because those are the media outlets that you want to be targeting or thinking about targeting. Then I'd highly recommend you start listening to them, the radio stations, you start connecting with those journalists and start looking at things like what the headline is. Are the headlines technical if it's a trade magazine? Are the headlines sensational if it's the Sun newspaper? Love it or hate that newspaper, it was perfect for me because I was just trying to reach working mums. So mirror what the media are, and it gives you a great idea on how you can shape your stories. You guys have already got your stories, and we're going to dive into the similar ways that Elliot talks to you about sharing your stories on stage. It's exactly the same. I'm not going to teach you anything new today, but give you the confidence to connect them then to the media. So think about where you want to be. Think about what's trending. Set some Google alerts up if you haven't already, either on your keywords of what you do, or keywords of your own business, or keywords of your competitors, or the trade magazine, and see what's trending, because you can set them to come into you as soon as they come in, or daily, however you want to do it. So if you're looking for inspiration for content or for storage or to connect to the media, see what's trending. So the number one mistake that people make, and if you take anything away, please take this away today. And I think you're going to probably know this already, because Elliot would share this with you when you're learning to become a speaker. Sharing your story is heartfelt. It's an emotional connection. Where most people go wrong is that they will basically try and write a press release. This is what we do. This is our business. This is a call to action. That's kind of advertising. That's logical. And journalists will spot it a mile off. What they want is the solution, how you've helped somebody, that emotional connection. So remember this and write this down. PR is about telling a story, advertising about selling your products. So PR tells, advertising sells. And if you get that right and you connect it to the right media outlets and make it relevant, you have a great chance of securing publicity. And when I say make it relevant, you can make it relevant in a few ways. If you're a regional business and you're looking for regional customers, tell them a regional story, give them regional case studies, because then they will want to work with you. I'm a big advocate for BBC radio stations because they need 60 to 70% talk, so they need debates. If you're a local regional business person, whether you're selling to consumers or to business, definitely consider your BBC radio station. Make it topical. Is it a news story that's trending at the moment? Is it anything to do with what's going on in the world that you can help people? I know the lovely Janetta's on here, and we've been working together. You know, her story is really current at the moment on how she's helping people overcome where they're at with their traumas and the epiphany process, and she'll be talking to you later. It's a relevant story. So if you got a relevant story, and is it sector specific? So if you're looking for manufacturing clients or IT people, I think there's some in here, make it sector specific if you want to get in the industry magazines. So the first thing to do is to consider sharing your story. You've got this. I don't need to go into too much detail with you about this. So my story was, I was just a mumpreneur trying to achieve the work-life balance and helping other mumpreneurs achieve the same. It was not rocket science, but it was heartfelt. So I got national coverage because I was helping mums all over the country change and work from home and get the work-life balance. It was a regional story because I was in Solihull in Birmingham and anywhere in the West Midlands. So make your story topical, but share your story. I went on Dragon's Den. It didn't actually go to air in the end, but I shared my story and got publicity in a really easy way. So think about what's your story for an emotional connection. Similar to what Elliot tells you as well, which is great because hopefully you're halfway there. Case studies. The media love case studies. So think about now, who have you helped? Who have you changed their lives? What solution have you provided? What businesses have gone through the roof because you've helped provide that solution? If you can use a case study, it gives you more credibility to your business, and the businesses love to use case studies. So I've had probably 30 to 40%, if not slightly higher, of my publicity just because I was a case study. So Linda Whitney here, I actually interviewed her as a journalist last week. She wrote for the Daily Mail, and she was writing about flexible franchising. And this was 2005. You can see the date, how far back it was. And I'm still here. She's still there. We're all still doing the same thing. So she wrote about flexible franchising, but she used my business Mums in Control as a case study. I generated £10,000 worth of business because of that article. So don't feel precious that it's not all about you. It's about the emotional connection and what case studies and who you've helped. So think about what case studies you've got. Do you remember I said to you at the beginning, I invested in a program and secured myself over £32,000 worth of business. And it was all because the speaker was teaching me how to launch my own national celebration day. Now, you don't need to go that big, and I'm going to share with you on another one of these, if we get a chance, time with how you can create your own. But there's over 400 national and celebration days in the UK. You can just Google national celebration days. Now, you as a business owner may be able to ride off the back of a celebration day that's already there. You may see some here already. Because the media love celebration days, they love national days, they're getting more and more on trend. They need stories. The media sit down each day and they have to forward plan and go, right, what are we going to talk about today? I know for a fact radio stations plan 2 to 4 hours in advance. Now, that's not because they're being lazy or it's all lastminute.com, although there's probably an element to that. It's because they want to be topical. So if you know there's a national celebration day coming up, see if you can ride off the back of it, provide some quotes, some case studies, align yourself maybe with the people that have launched it. And if there isn't one, consider launching your own. This is a lady who saw me speak. I've been speaking now since 2012 at different events, and she was a poet. She'd never done any publicity before, and she kind of realised then it was World Poetry Day coming up. She originally contacted her BBC station a month before, far too much in advance. They said, yeah, contact us a couple of days before, we might look at it. She did exactly that. She got 18 minutes worth of coverage on the radio station. It built up her confidence. She got to know the producer. She got asked to go back on a Sunday then to review the newspapers because they need guests. They need experts. I can't tell you and get excited enough on how this works. If you work hard for them and you deliver and you don't sell your business too much, but you tell and give stories away, they want to ask you back. And the ironic thing was the following year, she completely forgot it was World Poetry Day. And they phoned her and said, could you come on? It's World Poetry Day. She was, all right, okay. So she's gone on to do lots of publicity as a result of this. So I just went on to launch my own national day. I followed the system and launched National Working Mums Day. What I did was I regionalised the survey down into the different areas. So I made the stories topical in the different regions. And that's how I secured all the different radio interviews. I didn't know whether I was coming or going, speaking to Radio West Midlands or BBC Radio Kent. I didn't know where I was, but I got the stats to support it. And that's why it was topical. So think about if there's a national day that you can ride off the back of, or if you might want to consider doing your own. I can show you exactly step by step how I did that. Excuse me. So the rise of the influencer. This is where it's massive. You may already be an influencer. I know Elliot is. I'd like to think I am. And I know a few of the guys that are in here are and have the potential to be. And that's basically somebody who is positioning yourself as the expert. Now, this is where we get scared. And I totally take this on board because we're British. We don't want to put ourselves forward. We're like, we don't feel we know enough. But the journalists have to do a job, and they have to do it quickly. I was interviewing a journalist, freelance journalist. This was, oh gosh, a good maybe year ago. And she said to me, and it stopped me in my tracks, she's written for The Guardian Online, she's written for loads of SME companies, and so for Yahoo she's written for. And she said to me, she said, you know, when we're reading the press releases and you know, we're trying to do the journalism and get everything out. And I said, pardon? And she said, yeah, we're trying to do the journalism. I went, do you mean journalism? She went, no, journalism. We have to churn the stories out, because what's happened is the media outlets are having to output 2 to 3 times more stories than they did 5 years ago. Yet they've probably got half the staff they have. So they're having to turn these stories around really quickly, which means it's great news for you, because they want relevant stories and articles. So if you get the tone right and the story right, which is where Elliot helps you and I can help you, it's just about then connecting to the right type of journalist. And they want experts, they want guests all of the time, and they want fresh experts and guests. And this is why you are an expert, because if we spoke later or had a cup of tea or a glass of wine and I asked you about your business, I know, or I would hope you could talk from the heart and tell me what you do. So an expert definition is a person who has a comprehensive and authoritative knowledge of a skill in a particular area. That's you guys. I'm really hoping that's you. I'm just checking in on the time. That's you. That's what you do. So don't be scared of positioning yourself as the expert, putting yourself forward. We get so much success from our members that I work with by just writing an introductory email to the media to say, this is what I do. These are the topics that I can talk about. I'd love to help you with it. I know Janetta's on here. She's working with me. We sent something out for a couple of weeks. We had literally a response within 10 minutes and she got onto the radio station the following week, literally because of just an introductory email, because they want experts. They need new stories. The benefits of positioning yourself as an expert is unbelievable. So I've been as an expert in franchising, in just women in business, as a mumpreneur, as in PR now and media. So it's really easy. Once you're in that little black book, the media share their contacts. So I've been interviewed on Radio WM, Coventry and Warwickshire, but because I was in their database for the BBC as a franchising expert, I also got interviewed on Radio 2 with Anne Diamond. So they share their database and it snowballs. Sometimes you can have a regional story and it will snowball into a national story. So PR is so exciting. I know it's scary, but I can hold your hand through this. And I know there's a few people here, like Julia we've been speaking to, it's scary stuff, but you've hopefully got a powerful message. The fact that you want to share it on stage means you've got something heartfelt that you can help somebody with. So surely you deserve to share that with bigger communities. So position yourself as the expert and put yourself forward. So introduce yourself, as we say, to the UK media. You don't always need a press release to get publicity. It can just be an introductory email. So what I'm going to do is I've got a few more minutes and hopefully can answer some questions. Because I cannot cover this off, I've done 2 hours before with Elliot, I've done half days before. There's nothing I'm not selling anything here. I'm going to give you further training. If you would like to join me, and I'll put this in the post in here, I'll stop me sharing here. If you'd like to join me, I'll put it in the chat. Literally, you don't need to register now. So let me just come out of this. You don't need to register now, but if you just open up in the chat the box, and then you can go and register your details later. If you'd like to join me on it, I'm going to go into a lot more detail on literally how you share your story with the journalist, because the next step is, once you make the emotional connection, it's about sharing your story with journalists. So just open it up and then you can do it at another stage. It's next Friday and it's up to an hour, and we'll dive a lot more in. Just one PR success story can change your business overnight. And this is where I want to share with you the good stuff, because I know you're probably looking at this and going, it's okay for you. You're confident. You've been a speaker for a while. You've got all this publicity. I kid you not, I was so scared when I first started, but I've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners now achieve the same success. Sarah, I think that's in your group, she was the relationship expert. We've got her loads of publicity right from the beginning. That was years ago when she started her journey. She was scared. of speaking. She spoke on my Meet the Journalist event stage for the first time. Janetta has recently joined us. She had a radio interview within 10 minutes of sending out. But this is one person. This is where Sarah used to work. She used to work with Genevieve at the Elect Club. And Genevieve always wanted to be featured in the Times. And she said to me, you know, how can we get the Times? And she had access to a media database so she could connect with the journalists. I said, you know what you could consider doing? You could just consider picking up the phone and inviting the journalist to come along to one of your events. She's like, oh my God, picking up the phone, it's really scary stuff. But they want relevant stories. So what Genevieve does is she's a matchmaker from a romantic point of view. People pay up to £10,000 to join her and meet the right people. And she was doing a singles mix night. She invited the journalists went along, and she had a double page spread in the Times. It had a value of over £100,000 to her business. It was absolutely amazing. But it has a snowball effect. You get one article and it builds credibility. She then went on to write for The Independent. Literally within a couple of weeks, she got asked to see whether she could then write articles. So what are the pitfalls? There are a few. There's not many. Most of it is just the scary bit. But as a speaker, I'm hoping you've overcome, or you're overcoming those fears. It's inspiration and confidence. The inspiration is the Google alerts, me giving you, telling you how to share your story, Elliot sharing with you lots of different ways on how you can share your story, and it's the confidence. Are you prepared? Do you know where to start? So it's just following a system. It's not rocket science. I can give you press release templates. I can give you the introductory emails, the bio sheets. That's all fine. You can just adapt it. It's then just making time to reach the right media contacts. And I cannot stress this enough. So to let you know, something like the Daily Mail will reach up to, they'll have 200, 300 journalists work there. If you sent a press release, normally it would reach the news desk. They will never see it. You want to reach the relationship expert, the IT journalist, the health editor. You want to take time to find out who the right journalists are, and you can definitely do this yourself. We have access to a database and we pinpoint exactly the journalists we want to speak to. And I used this yesterday. It was scary even for me. My sister suffers with FMD. It's called a functional neurological disorder, and she's going through a terrible time at the moment. Lorraine Kelly, I know for a fact, supports it. It's when you have non-epileptic fits, and she's banging her head at the moment, and it's really stressful. And I just think it's a good time to share it. So I literally picked up the phone, maybe because I was at a desperate point, and I spoke to the commissioning editor for Good Morning Britain yesterday. And she was over the moon that I contacted her. She said, I'm going to put it to my editor tomorrow. She has said it's unprecedented times at the moment, but they want to hear from you. They want to speak to you. So take the time, if you've got a heartfelt story that's topical, that's trending, to speak to the right type of journalist. And we provide you with all of the contact details. But don't take my word for it. These are just a few people I've helped. William Hazeltine got featured on Radio 2. He does these rug buddies. He did the innovation show within 48 hours. He sold out of all of his system, all of his stock. Paul Wilson followed our system. He was a fitness boot camp. He got onto radio within 48 hours. He went onto TV. It snowballed. He then ended up being an expert on the embarrassing bodies. Sarah, that we've used here from Elite Dating's got loads of coverage in men's magazines and guest bloggers. She's wonderful. Rosemary Cunningham, she's just a small business owner about money, wealth and creating, and she got into a local BBC and got asked then to write regular columns. So this stuff really does work, and it's really exciting. And I think I'm just literally 1 minute short of my time, so I can't cram it all in today. So the first important part is to get the emotional connection. This is what you're halfway there as a speaker. I can share more with you when we've got more time. The second half is learning how to connect to the journalists. So I'm happy to answer some questions if Elliot's got time, or we can speak another time. But if you can join me next Friday, I've got an hour and I'll show you exactly how you can connect to journalists. No cost to do this. As I say, the link has been put in the chat. Just follow it up and sign up. And that's it, Elliot. That's all I've got to share, because I've run out of time.
Myself. Yeah, let's give a virtual round of applause to Rachel. Whoop, whoop.